It's the Nerdist Writers Panel, and it's hosted by Ben Blecker, where he gets a bunch of writers and he asks them lots of questions, and it's starting now, so this will be the end of the theme.
Let me know if I robot.
Okay.
Maybe just like the message in the chat or something, so that I don't just keep talking without knowing that I'm roboting.
In one long, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, it was really quite hypnotic.
Captain Picard, very good. Did you ever listen to that mashup, Todd, by Pogo?
I say Ken's favorite version of the what number?
It's not just that. It's a song. It's not. There is a solo that I like doing.
But that's the piece that's like always comes to mind is the recounting of the number.
I still know it. There's the song though. It's got 9.3 million views now on YouTube, which is great.
9.3 million.
It's basically this dude called Pogo. His thing is he mashes up songs out of like films or TV shows, by just taking like sounds or snippets of songs from TV shows and films and makes them into his own songs. And this one he does really well. It's like his first venture into video editing and such as well. He does a really good job of it. But if you have 3 minutes, it's a really good. It's actually quite a good song as well. And a great homage to TNG.
Wow, that's pretty decent makeup.
Yeah, he does a great job of it. And his dancing moves are on point too.
It's totally something Data would sing too. That's the best part of this whole bit.
See, do we have the link to that to post in the chat?
Yes, in the Skype.
Sorry.
I'm just posting our graphic to the Instagram.
I just wanted to share it since it was being mentioned. Ionis is talking about it, so is Hando like, hey. For those that are curious what Todd's laughing at there.
Yeah, I listened to that so much in like a 3-month period when it first came out that I've memorized the number sequence, and it's one of my like really geeky party tricks I like to pull out occasionally.
That is incredible. Like I would have, if that would have existed in the 90s, like I would have pulled that out at the club all the time. All the time. Like to the point that my boss would have had to like ban it. Well, I mean, so we had this weird the bar that I worked at had this weird clientele, right? Like half of them were club people. The other half were metalheads.
Nice.
And right, it was impossible to appease them all. Right, just straight up impossible to appease them all. So we would end up playing, like, this was during the Limp Bizkit
new metal. I love Limp Bizkit.
And Kid Rock.
Yep.
Right, and welcome to '99, everybody. And so I would end up playing Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit like 2 or 3 times a night.
Such a good song.
Oh yeah, that's it's a toe tapper, is what it is, and to the point where the guy who owned our bar owned several bars on the one. I mean, this is a college town in Midwest America. There is one street in which all of the bars are. Yep. In my college town, it was called Water Street, and Ken can actually attest to this. In fact, because he now lives in an American college town, so he knows. And so the guy who owned the bar that I worked at also owned several other bars on the street and wanted one of those other bars to be the metal bar, and our bar and the bar that I worked at to be the dance club. But the metalheads would not have it. They just absolutely refused. We're not going to that other place. We want to drink here. That was when I learned the most important lesson of the late 90s. I don't know maybe if I should share this, especially given the current times, but in the late 90s, in 1999, if you played I Want Your Sex by George Michael, Closer by 9 Inch Nails, and Pony by Genuine in any order, back to back to back.
You were responsible for 4 or 5 births that night?
Some girl in the bar would dance on the pole.
Oh, easy. Easy.
Because we had a pole in the middle of our dance floor that was like one of those industrial heavy poles that the
actually load bearing
hold up the ceiling. Yeah, it's the whole point of that thing was to hold up the ceiling. And I swear to you, as God is my witness, if you play those songs back to back to back, and again, it does not matter which order. By the time the third song ends, there's going to be a girl on the pole doing things that her mom would not be proud of.
Or very proud of.
Or very proud of, yeah, depending on whether or not, dancing on the pole is a family trait.
Hey, athleticism. I support it.
Right? Oh, hey, me too. I support women athletes.
And so, No, those songs were
$1 at a time. Except for the All Stars, who get $5.
I was gonna say those songs. I remember those songs in the club, and yeah, yep.
Yep.
Like I
Yep.
said, those songs were
the
responsible for so many
the late
births.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I'll just say again, the late 90s.
How do you guys feel about me putting a little bit of show funds towards getting us some icons on Twitch?
Icons on Twitch are fun.
Yeah, we
Like-
can get like
like-
our little faces or something.
Like pay for an artist, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think our Twitch community here is appreciative of the all of the interactions they can have on Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
and so
I
think
would
it's
agree
probably
with.
worthwhile.
Yeah.
Any ideas for emotes Twitch chat? Anything outside of our faces? Obviously, the easy things are like a microphone, a headphone, something like that. But
Like a giant, as gaudy as you can fit in, like, what is it, like 150 pixels square, or 50 pixels square, or whatever the hell it is. A giant no, like NO exclamation point, and as gaudy as you possibly could make it.
That would be, yeah, I could see that. The big no attack.
Yep.
I was actually going to say almost like the Harry Potter lightning bolt as a cancel type symbol. You know, circle with a line through it kind of thing, but have it be like the Harry Potter lightning bolt, reminiscent of Pottergate.
that's a funny one. I don't know how useful it would be in chat, though. It doesn't come up too often.
Every once in a while we have the spoiler thing. Not often, but it happens.
Oh, yeah, a Pottergate icon, 27 exclamation points.
Yeah, the 27 would be interesting to see how you could do. I always thought of one way of doing that would be like a pinwheel, or kind of like a thing where you have like the exclamation points dot in the middle with all the lines outside of it.
Oh, I was thinking even simpler than that. I was thinking just 27,
27
with an exclamation point in back of it. Yeah.
Ionis just gave us it, the other one that we've used in the past in chat.
Oh, exclamation point times 27. Yeah. Yep.
That's a nice, easy way of doing it.
Yep.
I think, what are some other things that are very us?
We get a Scottish flag, a Norwegian flag, and an American flag.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, that would work. That would work. I would be okay. I would be okay with that.
That'd be fun. So yeah, we could look at putting out some new some Twitch special icons for our community, since we are at that
Sure.
affiliate level thing.
Sure, abso-fraggin-lutely.
I think I can actually do it for free. I just need to find out how to.
Oh yeah, no, we just have to have the icons. We could add them. However we get them is what matters.
Yep.
Let's see. What else we got going?
Somebody
so-
somebody said something somewhere, and I don't know. Oh, levels are starting to cluster. Maybe we could mix the guild groups a bit soon. Ah, yes.
Oh.
I'm reading guild. I'm reading guild chat. We're 3 minutes
What?
out.
Uh-oh.
Trying to get to Thrallmar before the show starts. I know. I've taken the role of Hordak now.
So just just because it's my own geek, since we've got 4 minutes here. My 3D print, the last project I'd done, is for, nobody seems to really care, but I'm all proud of myself of it. For people who own homes and have to use sprinklers and stuff like that, at least here in the U.S., they have these pressure relief valves, backflow things that go on the outside of the house that, for anyone who lives in a cold environment, knows it seems like every winter they freeze in such a way that the bit of acrylic, whatever, that these valve little pressure things are built out of crack and fail.
Oh, right.
And you have to replace them every spring almost, and it's the kit that you buy from it. Minimal kit is like $35 for this thing every year. It's just annoying for this little piece of plastic, basically. So I decided this year, since I have my little resin printer, to see if I could model and print a replacement one myself. And I came up, and this is my prototype for it. This little, it's screws onto the top, and it has a little spring that fits through the setting in the middle that holds down the little pressure relief thing that opens up when the water flow comes through, and then closes for the backflow to come out the top if you have back pressure. And so when you first turn on your sprinkler each year, it like blows water out until it seals with the little spring closing up. So I was able to model this in Tinkercad, of all things, the least like CAD-like software. Just with, as everyone says, you get yourself a little meter to measure, and grab all your measurements of everything and find the shapes, and boom. And I'm happy to say that, this being my prototype, my actual one that I did is currently sitting on my sprinkler and holding pressure.
Oh, wow.
It worked. And this is so much sturdier than the cheap crap they gave me, and cost about not even $1 in resin.
Yeah.
To print.
That's fantastic.
So I think the entire process of printing both of the prototype and the actual one was about $1. And so instead of I had to take a little time, because I had to get the metal piece that goes through it. It has a spring and a little stuff on it. I had to use a Dremel to extract it from the original piece and then insert it into my replacement. But after a little bit of work doing that, boom, I just pulled the O-ring off it, put that on here. I did have to multiple times have to thread it on, because I tried to model the threads, not quite, and so I did the self-tap method of, on the brass fitting that it screws onto, going on a little bit like, back it out, clean it, back in again, and I kept doing that over and over again until it finally, I got it all the way down after a couple days of attempts. So
well done. That sounds like a pain to do, but it was well worth doing. Do you have any friends with the same sprinkler that you could give them to?
Oh, dude, these things, literally every sprinkler in the damn U.S. has this pressure valve thing out front. And there's only like 3 designs of them.
Right.
So every hardware store you go to has them. They sell out every spring because everyone has to kick on the sprinklers. And it's I've gone like maybe 3 years without it cracking over the winter for me. And so now this one that is not clear, it is not as brittle, because it's this nice resin I've been using for my prints that's actually surprisingly sturdy. Cranking it on here, these did not break. I was like really putting pressure. So I actually believe it's a sturdier part than what was on there before.
So you're going to open a little stall right outside the hardware store that sells just those parts?
If I could source the actual little spring and metal piece that's in there as well and figure out how to get that pretty easy, that would almost be a thing. But it is something that, for myself at least, I'm like, never again will I buy that damn piece. But it's me using 3D printing geekery for practical means every once in a while.
Nice.
Good for you, sir.
It is time for us to get things started. So let me kill that little bit of background music. Let me put the volumes up here, and let me roll that intro, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Hiya, this is Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in the student accommodation all the way in Scotland. Wait, that was years ago. You're listening to ShowX Live with your favorite Scotsman, Ken, currently residing in the US of A, and Wayne, mostly from Colorado.
Hey, wait a second. I'm on the show too, and I don't get any billing at all? Well, I know how to solve this. Soldater, Fremad, March! You're listening to ShowX with our favorite Scotsman Ken, our child of the corn Wayne, currently living in Colorado, and Todd, who now has an army of angry Norwegians at his back. Enjoy the show.
Dude, do you know what the best part about hiring an army of angry Norwegians is?
What is it?
No, do tell.
They work for mountains, like literal patches of rock. They're just like, here, you can have that mountain upon which you might be able to build a cabin someday. And like they all just lined up in rank form. They knew what to do. I didn't even have to train them. I just pointed at something that looked remotely mountain-like and went,
One
"No,
day-
you guys are gonna each get something like that." And I
One
was
day,
like,
you're
oh my
gonna build
god,
Norwegian themed things.
I'm not.
Is everything
I'm
Norwegian?
not. This is the best part about having a Viking wife, is that there will be a never-ending supply of Norwegian things. There are a lot more Norwegian things than you think, sir.
TIL.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it is 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, the 6th of June, 2021. Welcome to the show, everybody. So today's episode, we are going to focus our primary efforts talking today about the Burning Crusade. Because, what was it, some 14 years ago, Blizzard Entertainment released the first official expansion to the game World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
And while it had been delayed for, gosh, I forget how long the original announcement was to when it was supposed to come out. I always remember somewhere in my mind something like 6 months.
That sounds right.
Right. It was officially released on January 16th, 2007.
Oh my gosh.
And now, again, just over 14 years later, on what was it, June 1st of 2021,
Yep.
the Burning Crusade has come to WoW Classic.
Yep. Man. So we have to talk about the release of the original Burning Crusade. So this
Yes.
was back during the time when there was no BattleNet app and it wasn't digital downloads. So it was
I remember
physical media. And John Paul and I were at the GameStop in A-Town by the Target there.
Yep. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yes. And we waited in line and we both bought the regular standard version Burning Crusade, took it home, installed it, and played until probably 2 a.m. This is
Nice.
about a 10, maybe, well, at that time of night, about a 10-minute drive from the northern part of A-Town to where my house was.
Okay.
And
Yep.
we dropped in the disc, did the install, went through the dark portal and started playing. And I'll tell you what, 15 and a half years later, it is just as good as I remember it. Just as good.
To
That's
speak
the
to the TLDR. The just to speak to that, right? Because I have my Warcraft battle chess. That was the original World of Warcraft plus the expansion here, as well as like when I open it up, we talk about it. It's got the original discs. And so, I don't hear you right now, Todd. Am I? Actually, let's see. Ken, can you chat at me as well?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, I just can't hear Todd.
Yeah, Todd's is.
Nope.
There you
There was a problem with the microphone. It said microphone had a problem, and I
Okay, cool.
unplugged and replugged, and
Perfect.
We're back. So
I saw the mouth moving, and I was like, "Uh oh."
yeah. Where did you lose me?
I did not hear you responding to after I held up the battle chest and started talking about the fact that I have.
Were there 2 copies of the game in there, or only one?
So no. It's the original World of Warcraft DVD right here.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
DVD-ROM and the Burning Crusade expansion disc.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
the
you
battle
still
chest,
have that.
right? The battle chest came with both.
Okay.
And such that I got this. It says on the box for $40. And it's funny because I know how I am. I mentioned this on the show one time before. It has in it 2 guest passes for people to give like a month play. That or 10-day
Those are
pass.
still binding.
These do not work. I think I actually, when I last opened this a few weeks back, I tried to see if any of it worked, and no. But
I wonder if
against, like that should not be legal. They should be if they promise a product, they should be
Well,
forced to.
but I think
But I
this
wonder if that's because you can do the trial of retail.
it may not actually be viable anymore for the way the mechanic of it worked in the game. But it came with like a nice Blizzard product catalog that has StarCraft 2, World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King coming 2008.
Oh my god.
The battle chest, the Burning Crusade part of it. It's just it's funny because it's all Blizzard.
Goodness.
So there's only 2 titles in it. No wait, there's Diablo. There's Diablo. We're up to 3.
Diablo battle chest.
Oh man, all of this stuff, and there's only 3 games.
Yeah.
Those are the golden days, though.
Oh man,
Well,
Blizzard.
They were, and I don't know if you want to start talking about that now.
Well, one of the
Or
things I
not.
was going to mention on this as well, also, like I think I gone through it the last time, that I have the original game manual,
Wow.
which is
Yeah.
surprisingly dense, like how to play WoW. But no, I was actually the thing I was going to mention was the specs, because it's on the box.
Oh yeah.
And so back when Burning Crusade came out, as I look here, let's see, where was here we go. Minimum system specs requirement: 10 gigs of available hard drive space, half a gig of RAM, a 4x DVD ROM,
Oh.
a broadband internet connection, latest video drivers.
Yes.
Recommended minimum Windows 2000 XP or Vista, or Mac OS 10.3.9 or newer. And recommended spec was 1 gig of memory, a 2-button scroll wheel mouse,
Oh.
Intel Pentium 4 1.5 gig, or an AMD XP 1500 that had at least 64 megabytes of video RAM.
Wow.
As I'm sitting here with my 24 gigabyte 3090 video card.
Yeah.
So
I got 64 gigs of Corsair RAM coming theoretically next week. I have I don't even know how many gigabytes of video RAM I've gotten the Duke. So yeah, it's
Right?
that's good stuff.
I always like that because I have several old games on the shelf, and it's always funny to remember what used to be epic back in the day when you had it.
Well,
Big shout
and
out to Zarian for following us. Thank you for that. As
Hey,
well
thank
as
you.
Thank you.
was it Senat for following us as well. We got a few follows in there.
Oh, nice.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. So, I have to say, I was talking to somebody and telling a story about the first computer that my family ever owned, which was an Windows 3.1 machine, and it only had 4 megs of RAM. And I remember being at the store and my parents talking to the salesman, is like, he's only going to do homework on it. Yeah, right. But he's only gonna do homework on it. And I begged and pleaded and bargained and tried to cajole and everything that I possibly could to get the extra 4 megs of RAM in that computer, because it was going to prevent me from creating 4 meg swap files in DOS in order to run the video games that I wanted to play. And this was back during the time, nostalgia trip, everybody, where the DRM was go to page X, paragraph Y, word Z, and enter that into the prompt.
Oh God, I hated those DRMs.
Me too. Me too.
My favorite version of one of those old DRMs where you actually had to have the physical manual to do it was in one of my old BattleTech games. I want to say it wasn't the Phoenix Rising or something, whichever one, but it was an old top-down BattleTech turn-based strategy game, and played the heck out of it. But to do it, the manual in it had a battle, or what was it? It was a blueprint of one of the battle mechs. And you had to, it would tell you, like, what is this part called? It would show you a picture, and you had to go look at the blueprint to find what that piece was named. And the challenge was, because back in the day, since as far back as I've been in computing, my family was very well aware of the ability for media to be copied, and you know, and such that we never had that manual. But somewhere my brother found, and damn, I wish I could find it again, a poster of that blueprint. That because we just love BattleTech, and so we had the poster of that mech specifically. So when we'd have to do it, and I wasn't sure what that was, if I couldn't remember, I'd have to go find the poster, unroll it, and find that part, and be like, "Oh, there it is."
Hell yeah!
To be able to play the game.
That.
Yeah, and this is before you could just like take a picture of it and put it digitally on your computer or something to have available. You literally had to have the printed things.
The physical,
DRM.
Yeah, the physical thing. All right, let's dive in.
To continue the nostalgia that is the Burning Crusade. First of all, like, what did it give us?
Oh wow! So let's break this up into sort of 3 parts, right? So there's classic World of Warcraft. This is the 0 to 60 or the 1 to 60 experience. Everything on Azeroth pre-Cataclysm. There's some weirdness in there. Like this is really primordial design, right? There are these huge level swings in instance dungeons. Like the idea was that you were supposed to run these things multiple times to complete the quests that sent you into these dungeons. And here's the perfect example. We, the 5-person group that's been running all of this stuff together, like starting with Ragefire Chasm and going all the way through, we skipped Dead Mines because you would skip Dead Mines. We're not playing Alliance. And we got to Uldaman, right? And in vanilla World of Warcraft, the final boss of Uldaman is level 47. There are mobs, like the zone, the Badlands, is a late 30s to early 40s zone, right? You can walk in there, you get the quest to go there at like level 35. But the mobs are really 38, 39, 40, 42 is like the maximum that you'll see for mobs in the Badlands. And the same thing outside the instance. Like outside the instance, there are like level 36, 37, 38 elite mobs, right? So you need a group really to kill them. But you go in there and the final boss of that place, really nasty sort of marathon encounter at the end of that place. But the final boss was 47. Okay? So that's vanilla WoW. Same thing in Maradon. Same kind of thing in a place like Blackrock Depths, right? And the sort of the design philosophy of the instances with these large, somewhat mazy places, right? Okay. Where I believe the belief in 2004 was that you were going to get as much value out of exploring these places as you were killing the named mobs for loot. Right?
Oh, wait. Did the mic just...
Yeah, your audio's died again, Todd.
Weird. So, Todd, right where you said named mobs for loot is where that ended up.
Back?
Now you're back. Yes.
Okay, good. So we got
USB.
one of the things we got right out of the gate was Scarlet Monastery, where we got wings. Right, there were 4 wings. Each of the wings was shorter, and there was a progression from wing to wing. Right, so you went to the graveyard first, and that was late 20s, early 30s. Then you went to library, that was mid 30s. Then you went to armory, and the final boss of armory was and the final boss of armory was 40, and then cathedral, where the final boss was 42. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Later on, they would revisit that with Dire Maul, and Dire Maul had 3 wings, east, west, and north, and the gimmicks of those was a little bit different, but it was like 57 to level 60. Like 2 of those instances were level 60. Okay, and that was sort of the thing. The itemization was not great. The talent trees for some of the classes were not great. Like Shadow Priests were very simplistic and not particularly useful. And so at the end of vanilla, they dropped the pre-patch for TBC. And in the pre-patch for TBC, they expanded the talent trees. They fixed some of the itemization. They did. There were a bunch of stuff that they fixed, like a whole bunch of mechanical fixes. And pre-patch is where you can see that they learned a whole bunch of lessons from November of 2004 until late 2000 or mid 2006. Right, that they really, if you look at it from an engineering process perspective, the list of lessons learned had to be just huge. Right, and so they learned all these lessons and they applied a bunch of them, and then Burning Crusade itself hits, and that was the level 60 to level 70 leveling experience, plus new instances, plus raids, plus this whole new planet to explore, new mob types, all kinds of stuff.
Well, because some of the things, at least via the wiki, right, it says that coming in for Burning Crusade, you got 2 new playable races, which were added. You have the Draenei of the Alliance and Blood Elves of the Horde. Previously, the Shaman class was exclusive to the Horde, and the Paladin class was exclusive to Alliance, and those got changed with the new races.
Yep.
The level cap was raised by 10 from 60 to 70, in addition to the whole new planet Outland coming in with the Burning Crusade, along with all the content within it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those 2 things. Each side got a new race, and they normalized class distribution. So Horde Paladins and Alliance Shamans. And basically the idea being that playing as Alliance in the raid game in Classic was inherently easier because of things like Blessing of Salvation, which would reduce all the DPS's threat so that their damage output could be higher second to second, minute to minute, right, in the really big important encounters. So that was one of the big criticisms, of course, for Horde side players. Horde got access to Bloodlust from Shamans, which was basically an attack and cast speed modifier, if I'm remembering it correctly.
35% extra attack speed at the moment, I believe, anyway.
Yeah. So for the melee DPS, if you had a bunch of rogues and DPS warriors and enhancement shaman, Bloodlust was one of those big things that you would do when it got close to execute time. And more rage generation means more DPS for the warriors, and so on and so on and so on. So, but that all gets normalized, and so there was a period of time. I've been waiting to drop this line, and I feel like we're at the point now. There was a period of time when Blizzard Entertainment was a top 5 development house.
Oh yeah, easy.
Right?
There was a period of time. There was a period of time that as a gamer, it would be unthinkable to not pick up a Blizzard product. Now, maybe the MMO is not your jam, so you passed on it, but you certainly were not going to pass on Diablo and StarCraft, right? Or, Warcraft 3. If we're thinking about sort of modern times. Like, it would have been unthinkable. And to me, early the TBC pre-patch and early Burning Crusade is all the evidence that you would ever need to prove that Blizzard Entertainment at one point was a top 5 development house, because it's just really great. It just is. I can't, they made one of the things they did with TBC pre-patch is they made the 1 to 60 level grind more streamlined. So starting at about I think it's like level 30, starting around level 30, but I think it's actually at 30. It takes less XP. It takes less XP to level, and you get more XP per quest turn in. And I think between the two, that ends up being like a 35% boost in leveling speed, like pretty significant.
Oh yeah, I remember it becoming so much easier. I remember in vanilla, man, it took me honestly like 3 years to get my mage to 60. Largely because I was a kid who screwed around a lot, but
Right.
It was still. I remember taking a long time.
Yep. So, for example, I got a warrior that I leveled almost exclusively in pre-patch, and he's level 54, and basically he exists to do 50 to 59 bracket PvP. Right? That's the only reason why he exists, essentially. That character will probably not touch Winter Spring, Silithus, and Blasted Lands. Probably at all. I guess I had to a little bit I guess I did have to touch Blasted Lands for the Warrior quest. With the level 50 Warrior quest that you get to go into Sunken Temple, that you get a pretty good piece of plate headgear for. But I probably won't do anything else in there. By the time I run Sunken Temple, by the time I finish in Ungoro Crater, and I do some of the mid-50s, like one of the mid-50s instances like a Blackrock Depths or whatever, by the time I get done with that, that character will be 58, I believe. And ready to basically start doing the Twink PvP thing. So by that time I'll be done. I'll have a full set of Imperial, well, not a full set. I'll have at least 4-piece Imperial plate at that point, which gives a set bonus of some attack power. So I'll be as close to ready as I could be. Essentially at that point to start the Twink PvP thing. But I'm also I've been, this time around, I've been somewhat skeptical about going into Outland right off the bat, because there are a lot of Timmies out there. I mean, I will say this: it seems like the classic player base is more mature than the retail player base and the European player base tended to be. I don't know if it's that way anymore, but tended to be more mature than the American player base to begin with. So, I have not had any problems really with pugs.
Okay.
And everybody's been, that I've interacted with directly, has been really nice.
Oh wow, that's great.
Really good to hear.
It's been really refreshing.
That actually kind of makes sense to me in a way, though, that because with your same subscription, right, you have access to both retail and classic, that the people who are choosing to go back to classic, right, are going there for a reason. They're not just going there to hang out with friends or just to blast through whatever, because you can do that in retail. And arguably retail has made things so easy to find groups, to level, to do things like that, that for the kind of person who doesn't want to really spend some time and effort like you would have to in comparison in classic, I don't see why they would ever really see an appeal to classic. And I'd actually be really curious to see the kind of people that are playing classic versus retail. How many that are playing classic are doing it for their first time versus how many people are coming back to essentially classic content.
There are some that are doing this for the first time, and you can tell by questions in the chat. Like somebody asks a question that's like, "Oh, you didn't show up here until at least Cataclysm. If not, hell comes to Panda Town." So and you know, again, sometimes LFG, which is really taken on the mantle of Baron's chat, sometimes LFG can be a little nasty, but by and large, people are helpful. On Netherguard Keep, there's a guy who comes in at least once a day and just drops a message saying, "Hey, by the way, I just wanted to tell everybody that you guys are great." And that's it. That's all he pops in, he drops that message in LFG, and then buggers off for the day. And there'll be like 5-6 people that respond. And it's like, "Hey, man, you too." Right? I saw it and went, that is seriously the most amazing thing I've seen maybe in 15 years. Just how cool those moments in LFG are. You know, it's just a one guy's like, "Hey, have a good day." And you know, the handful of people that and then the handful of people that respond back. It's like, "Yeah, you know what, you two have a good day." So
no, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The Burning Crusade design is so good. It's so good. You know, winged instances won out. That was one of those lessons learned. That Blizzard, you know, they looked at Scarlet Monastery, they looked at Dire Maul, and they looked at Blackrock Depths, and they just went, you know, these sprawling 21 boss takes half a day to clear. Instances are not conducive to the kind of play that we want, and so they made everything in TBC winged. Everything's winged.
Okay.
So, you know, you take the first instance or the first real set of dungeons in the first zone, Hellfire Peninsula, and there are 2 for fresh, I would say fresh and Outland characters, and then there's one at level 70. Like, and just the whole idea is that you're going to end up coming back, by the way. And it's just, you know, the first Hellfire Ramparts is a 3-boss, you know, pretty straightforward, not particularly demanding, but way more technical than anything we're seeing in vanilla.
Gotcha.
Right, and that's a really interesting thing to me. Like, we just did a Maraudon in the old world, in the classic world, and there's very little technically going on with that instance.
It's all just it's just a grind and making sure you don't pull too many mobs at once.
Just, here's the pull. As long as you don't double pull packs or like the hardest mechanic in most of these places are patrols.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is possible, if you're not careful, to have a patrol string, you know, another pack together, and you end up pulling double plus a little bit what you were expecting to. And that could be a little squirrely. But these are significantly more technical fights. It's Bosses have healers with them. There are ads in places. The trash packs tend to be mixed with heavy hitting DPS, heavily armored characters and casters in the same pack. So you have to sort of be able to deal with the entire holy trinity working against you of tank, DPS, and caster. And it's just I went into Hellfire Ramparts with a pug, and we wiped once, and it was only a partial. Actually, twice. There were two partials, and the reason why we did that is because somebody pulled when they weren't supposed to, and we ended up getting double pulls.
Ah.
And it's just good. The itemization is way better. Like, they understood that spell damage and spell crit were just as important, if not more important, than raw stamina, intellect, and spirit. It's like, for example, for a priest. And
I remember that old stat.
well, so imagine being a rogue and picking up, a bunch of your Dungeon Blue set, right? So you're running Lower Blackrock Spire, Stratholme, Scholomance, Blackrock, maybe not Blackrock Depths, Upper Spire, right? You're doing all that endgame stuff, and you pick up these blues that belong to a set for a rogue, and there's spirit on it, which doesn't influence anything.
Yeah,
for
that
your
must
character.
be quite irritating. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no.
Compare that to some of the gear that you can get really relatively easily in Outland. And for a rogue, it's going to be high agility, it's going to be medium high stamina, and it's going to have crit rating and attack power on it. And that's what all of it's going to have. Right? They're not going to give you strength gear unless it's supposed to dual purpose as hunter gear as well as rogue gear, right? So yeah, they learned so much, and they applied those lessons in a way that it would be hard to argue against, objectively make the game better. And it's hitting all the nostalgia. It's hitting all the nostalgia bits. It's hitting all the oh yeah, I remember that they made classes that, if you play a priest, you're supposed to be a healer. If you play a shaman, you're supposed to be a healer. If you play a druid, you're supposed to be the main tank or a healer. Like, they didn't get rid of it, but they also said, well, just because of a healer doesn't mean you should be worthless in the single player leveling experience.
I always hated that in Classic, in Vanilla. Whenever I was trying to level up a healer, like, you had to do it in groups or you were screwed.
Yeah, I mean, the leveling as a disc priest, I could tell you, in the Classic world has been, I wouldn't say annoying, but it's not. I've traded raw damage output for longevity, right? So the difference between a disc priest and a shadow priest, and then yes, I leveled 2 priests because I'm obsessive that way. The disc priest I can pull and pull and pull and pull and pull, and as long as it's single mobs, right? I can kill a single mob, and I have enough mana to go immediately in to kill the next mob. And it's just chain. It's like one after another, after another, after another, and just boom, 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 boom. And I can do that pretty much all day. Just keep going, one mob at a time, blah, blah, blah. You give me multiple mobs at a time, I have the tools that I need, in order to deal with it, but that's going to be a little bit more draining on my mana. Whereas with the Shadow Priest, I can kill elite mobs my level basically without a problem, right? But I'm going to be totally out of mana. I will have blown all of my resources on killing that elite mob. That's at my level. So
Yeah, whereas it's funny how throughout all the World of Warcraft games and expansions, they sort of went from it's very hard to level, killing one mob is doable, killing two is difficult, killing three is impossible unless you're massively overgeared or in a low level area, and then you go to like Wrath, and suddenly you can AOE everything. And it seems like they went back down towards Legion sort of expansion, and then it sort of became, post Legion, I should say. Then it became hard again, and at least in my experience with Battle of Azeroth, it was like that. And I find it's the same with the most recent expansion, is back to being kind of difficult to, unless you have raid tier gear, it's tough to even just solo an elite, for example.
Okay.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I remember for me going because I mostly played classic as a rogue. Undead Rogue for the majority, and leveled up to 59 before I gave it to John Paul to let him become his account. And that I think, I mostly played on my own. I couldn't really hit an elite mob, maybe unless I blew everything I had. I might be able to get through an elite mob at a level or two below me, like something elite. And then because I remember having to desperately be careful with my vanishes and stuff like that, depending on where I was running when I shouldn't have been.
Right.
Because I loved exploring places I shouldn't be yet. And then when I went into TBC, I think it maintained that it was still pretty difficult to go through. I mean, I still mostly played solo, other than when Earthweaver would run with me because he had a great resto shaman. And so he was able to keep me alive and help us do two-man a lot of content that probably shouldn't have been able to do.
Earth had skills. Shout out to Earth.
Earth's healing. I remember him still telling stories about how he would shut down priests and stuff who were kind of like, or anyone in a raid group who were saying, "Oh, you're healing? You can't heal as a shaman." And he was like,
"Oh yeah, you can.
Just wait." And because he would put on all the priest gear, and they'd be like, "What are you doing?" And he would keep everybody alive with his totems. But
at the same time, I remember playing with a couple of shamans and pugs, oh my god, who would try to tank because they had a shield and they thought therefore they could tank. And oh my god, no taunts. And they'd be dropping like earth skin totem or something to try and but no, it never worked. It
wasn't the same. That was a whole different level of mechanic, yeah. But I do remember when I went and started doing in Wrath, when I came back for Wrath for a minute, and I did a druid for my first time, and I could pretty much solo everything I wanted to in it. Yeah. That I could go bear and just tank a bunch of stuff, switch to cat and play like my rogue, and then just it was surprisingly made it such a simple single player game for me in Wrath that I almost never had to actually run with anybody. So I feel the same way with the difficulty curves and how it happened.
It's true, but I am so in. The completionist in me is just going crazy. The people are cool, so you're picking up a couple of people to do a group quest in Hellfire Peninsula, and you kill the mob, and everybody says, "Great, thanks. Do you have this group quest?" "Oh yeah, I've got that too." "Cool, great. Let's do that quick." And you run together, and it's only for 20 minutes. And then everybody's like, "Yay, thanks for the group. Good luck, have fun." The group breaks up, you go on about your way. It is the idealized version, at least right now. It is the idealized version of the MMO. Right? And maybe that's just because it's Europe, maybe that's just because it's Netherguard Keep, and maybe that's just because it's WoW Classic, or it's all of those three things. But to me, who again played this stuff originally in 2007, when it came out, and talked about it a hell of a lot in 2007, this is as good as it will ever be right now. That's none of the. There's a little bit of the gear score elitism that's popping up. Because you'll see mostly hunters. Sorry to all my hunter people out there. You'll see mostly hunters that'll say things like looking for more for Akanai crypts must be at least 66 plus and no greens. Right? Which is the proto gear score elitism that would come in Wrath originally.
Oh yeah,
Right?
I remember
Right.
the proper GS mods and everything that like people would
Yeah.
refuse to have you if you didn't
Yes.
have a
Yes.
certain gear score of
Yes.
1,000 to 100 or something.
Looking for group for X heroic must have gear score 215 plus or whatever it was. Well, if you looked at what gear score 215 was, it was tier 7 raids, right? Or equivalent.
I remember when I started hearing about gear score being a gateway, a barrier to entry into groups, because I never focused when I played on the gear I had. I specifically remember one time ever going after a quest solely for the gear, and that was back in Desolace as a rogue, getting the boots from the gator or whatever it was in the I forget which dungeon it was, on the west side with all the centaurs, I think. But there was like this one big, huge alligator in a pit, whatever, swimming around that you could take. And you'd get some
that's
really good. You'd get really good rogue boots, and that was the only piece of gear like I ever specifically quested for. Everything else, I went and it would just be whatever dropped in the line of me questing normally, because I also didn't raid and didn't do anything big like that. And so, with the few times I would actually be like, "Hey, here's an instance or something I want to be a part of," and then I started hearing about people talk about gear scores, because I don't think I ever knew what gear score I had at any point in time, but it just seemed like such a bizarre take for me that you wouldn't let someone in because you just through this whatever rated number, you're not good enough. You didn't do enough. You don't have something that'll do enough of a stat, and therefore, no matter how you play, you must be garbage or something. I don't know. It just was such an arbitrary thing for me. Like,
so the devil's advocate argument for that is everybody's time is precious. Therefore, it's in my own best interest to do whatever I can to ensure that my time is not wasted. The player base by Wrath of the Lich King is not very good. Like, if you just had to pick 5 people out of a crowd and say go run a heroic, I would guess that better than 50-50 the heroic would fail. Right? Even if you controlled for proper specking. So you didn't just throw a plate wearer, a couple of leather wearers and a couple of clothies, like a warrior tank and a healing priest and 3 DPS of type that makes sense, right? And you put 5 randos together. Yeah, I think it's better than 50-50 that heroic 5-man run fails. And so what do you do in that scenario in which you can't get your guild to run something, or you're ungilded and you want to complete content and progress your character, but every time, when you form a group by yourself with no restrictions, more than half the time it fails.
Oh, so I can appreciate, like what you're saying about it being the that you want to make sure you want to ensure you have the best chance of success when you're actively trying to progress content. I think the problem I run into, and it's very similar MMOs in general, the way you think, is that soon as you had top tier groups showcasing a means to success, be it guides, be it whatever the case may be, how quickly the entire community, it felt to me, tried to emulate it.
Oh, sure.
Right? Just so that it became that, maybe I'm a pretty good player and I want to hit the content, but it suddenly turned into where it felt like every group put the barriers up.
Mhm.
Where it became like, well, if you don't do this, you will fail. If you don't do this, then there's no question, and therefore everyone's going to do it, and therefore
Sure.
anyone who's trying to move up and do something else, you can't participate
Well-
unless now you're stuck into the same realm of having, I guess, in order to do this content, I have to go grind these things because nobody's going to accept me in a group unless I have this gear score, and so
right.
screw me, I have to now be
Right.
part of the sheep and do everything everyone else is doing. And so that
Well,
always
or-
bothered me about most
Sure.
like the MMO experience.
Two alternatives to that, right? One is not necessarily fair to you because it forces you to alter your real life. Right? So the alternative for you would be to get in on the guild with your friends. Right? And then if you're playing with your friends, it probably doesn't matter. Right? But
Yeah,
that's
you're
going to
right.
require you to play at the same time as your friends did. or
Consistently,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, consistently, right? You just as an example, I'm not throwing that out there for the purposes of anything other than to just use it as an example. So take it in the spirit in which it's given. You could have been our fifth when it was Hordak, John Paul, Serpenser, and I four-manning all of this stuff, right? You could have been the fifth. And then you would have been there and at least in the vanilla experience, right, would have gotten all the stuff that you had wanted, right? So your relative gearing would have been way higher than it was just as a solo player, right? Because the instance gear was just better, right? And the quest reward gear for the instances was just better, as a rule. So.
And you're right. There's a ton of ways that people could go about it. It was just something that I would hear the scuttle about, and you have a lot of people get a little heartache where they're like, "Man, I just want to kind of go check this out," but nobody wants to group with me because I'm 10 points too low for whatever it is they're asking. Right? It's like, all right,
no, that's and it really sucks if you want to go run a piece of content that nobody else in your friend set wants to, or in your group or your guild, the people that you game with on the regular. If you're trying to do a piece of content that nobody else wants to, what do?
Yep.
And the answer is you don't do the thing that you want to do, which sucks. That's a terrible feeling.
Well, and
right?
I can see how it would potentially lessen the appeal for spending time in that game, right? But this is also Wayne's personal look at some of these things of MMOs in general. Admittedly, always saying, I'm not an MMO fan. I don't play many.
Yeah.
Because I try a bunch out. I want to play with people, and then I find I don't play like most people play, and therefore MMOs are not for me. But is that like, I always felt like, well, then if there's going to be these barriers, there's so many other great games I can go play that I can just go play and enjoy. I will just walk away from the MMO experience, and that was kind of
100%,
honestly
yeah.
how it happened to me.
Makes
but
absolute sense.
Aside from like those aspects of Burning Crusade, though, with you coming back into it and having some of the nostalgia stuff, did you have that first I went through the gate again kind of experience when you first go through the portal and take through the and take the flight path that kind of flies you around the introduction where you first see, because you don't step through the gate and go into the melee that's happening at the gate, because when you step through your first instant, you die. That scrum happening is later content that you get introduced
there's
to.
a Pit Lord waiting for you if you run down the steps. Like, he's no joke. It was the same but different, and I'll explain that because that doesn't mean anything, but I'll explain it. So the first time, not really knowing the lore and not understanding what the Burning Legion necessarily really was, other than it has to do with demons, right? And the Cult of the Damned has to do with undead. Which ultimately ends up leading us to Arthas, right?
I read a really interesting deep dive into this the other day, actually, with the lore behind why when you go through the gates of for the Burning Crusade for the first time, you see this, these huge armies of demons trying to flood into Azeroth, and instead of fighting them, you just sort of like fly over them and go do some other stuff. It was somebody asked the question of why is that? Like that's a bit weird. Why did we just end up? And basically the answer was, well, the reason that they were storming the gates was to try and distract humanity and the orcs and everybody else on Azeroth to coming into the gate to try and battle. They wanted to bring them into Outland because the Burning Crusade was actually like the actual Legion were worried about Illidan and his like huge army that he built, the Black Temple, all the power they'd gained, and they basically wanted humanity and everybody else on Azeroth to come through and to fight him.
Okay.
And so they distracted with it. With that's I don't know if it's theory crafting or if that's legitimate, but I thought that's a good point because I always wondered why you get to this line, you're like, oh my god, all these demons are battling. Let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
It seems like your first job should really be battling those guys, but you don't.
Yeah, no, that's true. Okay, so I remember distinctly walking through the first time in 07 and seeing it and not just going to the Flight Master and like going to Thrallmar, but like literally standing at the top of the stairs, turning around, looking at this huge gate. And in relative terms, the gate on the Outland side is way bigger than the one in Blasted Lands.
Yeah.
It is enormous on the Outland side.
Yeah.
And it is just like, oh my god, that's big. And then you turn around and you see the Pit Lord, and you're like, oh my god, that's big. Do we have to fight? Do we have to fight that? Like it's a meme at this point, but I'm not prepared to fight that.
Well, I remember targeting like the mobs, right? Because one of the things that stuck in my head when you came through was, for me, it was one of the first events I saw that was kind of a reoccurring, just placeholder event that it wasn't really progressing one way or another, but just kind of the extra flavor for what was going on in the thing, this constant battle, and targeting various mobs in that, going like, nope, that skull, like nope, that's nope. Oh hey, oh
skulls
no,
everywhere.
No, yeah, like just don't even bother, right?
No, these are badass demons. Demons.
You know what? I don't remember. I remember when TBC first launched, I pretty much spent the whole time just staring at the portal. But I remember there being thousands of people standing outside the portal getting ready to go through at midnight, and they did. But what I don't remember is what happened on the other side. Did people just storm the demons and all die? What happened?
Oh gosh, that would have been
really funny.
I wasn't there for the launch of it, so I don't know how it felt to be there right at the beginning.
Yeah. So this time around, I waited a couple of days to sort of let all the Timmies get out of Hellfire Peninsula, and we have to talk about that in the second hour, because this is one of those things where Twitch and gaming YouTube actually ruins a video game, but this time they ruined it to my benefit, so I guess it's okay. I remember. So I walked through the second time a couple of days after launch, and I remember looking down on the Pit Fiend and also going, "Oh yeah, I have to run over here to the Wind Rider because I'm going to Thrallmar. No big deal." But I remember looking down on the Pit Fiend and going, "Oh yeah, I remember this," and just having that sort of, "Yeah, this is where I want to be," type of thing. And then I rode the Wind Rider to Thrallmar and started doing the quests, and you're killing demons, and there are named mobs places, and the named mobs drop stuff that lead to more quests, and you turn the quests in, and that ends up being the start of a chain. And it's just all this stuff that I remember from 2007 and 2008. That's just the highlight of my time playing World of Warcraft. So yeah, I'm getting all the, like, it's not just the nostalgia. It really is you look back objectively and look at the mechanics and the technicality of what's happening in the instances and the way the quest chains are engineered and stuff. It feels
it feels this is such a weird analogy. It feels engineered without feeling German.
All right.
Right? Okay. So think about this is a car analogy, probably terrible, but think about an Italian car, right? It's all passion and pantomime and presentation, and none of it works.
I was gonna say the problem is it looks pretty, but boo.
Yeah, and none of it works. Contrast that with the Germans, it all works. And it works almost flawlessly, and none of it's interesting. Right? You can look at these performance specs and wow, those are big numbers, right? And if I had a road that had no speed limit so that I could drive 155 miles an hour or 190 miles an hour, like that would mean something to me. But it's all real solid and it's all works and it's all reliable and it's all very well engineered, and that nothing is stirred in me by any of it. Right? This is in the middle. This rides that line between the two. Like right now, this introductory Burning Crusade a time frame. It's got the pantomime. There's the giant pit fiend that you don't actually fight. It has the winged instances, 3 bosses, 35 minutes. No muss, no fuss. You can get that done, no problem. It's got these long quest chains. There's story there. You introduce Thrall to the long lost tribe of orcs that are living on Outland, and that's gonna be a callback to later on with another quest chain in which Thrall actually leaves Orgrimmar and travels to Outland.
Yeah, that was a big deal back then as well, because I remember all the leaders in Classic never did anything, right?
Yeah,
in Vanilla, they just stood around.
Yep. And this is you do the first quest for this lost tribe of orcs in Hellfire Peninsula, and it's not that big a deal, right? You meet this person, like a ghost wolf actually is what leads you up there, and you go up there and you talk to the guy, the leader of this lost tribe of orcs, and he gives you a letter, and you go back to Orgrimmar and present the letter to Thrall, and Thrall has this human moment where he's like, it's my people and they're in Outland, and he like calls one of his subordinates over, and it's like, I am leaving, I am going to Outland to visit this lost tribe of orcs because these are my people.
Well, literally, Thrall was the sort of Egyptian story of the baby put into the river, right, in a cradle, and that's what happened when his mother first came to Azeroth to try and escape all all the problems that were occurring when his people invaded at the behest of the Dark Guardian Medivh. Yep. That was a very, very cool sentence to say. So, I think it's very appropriate that, he knows that he's an orc that's been misplaced since birth, and he wants to get in touch with his sort of racial heritage. And I think that's a really beautiful story that they're actually telling through World of Warcraft there. I never really thought about that before.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I'm so looking forward, because the Grand is one of the zones that I'm going to do as close to completion as I possibly can. And I'm going to get to see that moment, and I'm really, really excited for it. I think as excited for that as I am potentially getting to see the Wrathgate cinematic again, like spontaneously in the future. Because I remember when that first hit, and I was just like, oh my God. We've never seen anything like it before. Like, we're in the middle of the leveling experience, and all of a sudden, here's the cinematic cutscene. And not only is it a cinematic cutscene, it's with a red dragon flight, and Sylvanas is letting us know 10 years in advance that she's not a nice lady. And it's just nice. And that Thrall moment, I am so looking forward to. Looking forward to that.
Let's take a break so we can allow the Ionises of the world to go empty any kinds of bladder issues they may be having, waiting for us to take our break.
Empty your thimble, suck up.
And we will come back after. I'm going to do a little bit of nostalgia across the board here for us, since we're talking what is old is new again, here with Burning Crusade in WoW Classic. So we're going to be playing a song from our one of our old favorites, the Brewmaster, and pick this one up for you. And so check it out, everybody. Enjoy, and we will be
which one is it?
right after the break. We'll be right back, everyone. You're watching ShowX, even though this might confuse you for a moment here on Twitch and such. So we'll be back right after this.
You're listening to Octale and Hordak versus the world.
Oh my
Listen
god.
to some music that Octale picked, so it probably sucks.
Oh, yes!
You gotta be really quiet. You see, I'm sneaking up on a night elf.
Just about 4.5 minutes, everybody. We'll be back.
Would you? We're here on WoW Radio. You're listening to Blue Please with the man Total Biscuit. Thanks for letting me stop by and sing a little something special. I'm a level 60. You're a level 2. That's not gonna stop me from annihilating you. So everybody hates me, but you're envious inside. I know you wanna kill me, but you know I'll skin your hide. 'Cause I'm the ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. 'Cause I'm the ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. That's right, oh yeah. The ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. I'm the ganker and I'm coming for you. And I'm coming for you. You know it. You love it. There's absolutely nothing that you can do except sit on down, crack a cold one. Here's verse 2. You better keep an eye out when you're in Ashenvale. 'Cause the second that you see me, you'll start to scream and wail. You'll probably run pretty quickly, but my epic mount will fly. So do me a favor, tell the spirit healer hi. 'Cause I'm the ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. Oh yeah, the ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. That's right. It's gonna be fine when I make you mine, and I'm gonna sneak up and cut your spine. 'Cause I'm the ganker, and I'm coming for you. Oh yeah, baby, you know it. It's about time to send this baby home to bed. How about it? One more verse. Here we go. You're in the alliance, but I am in the horde. I hope you don't mind if I see fit to cut your spinal cord. You know there's no escaping, and that
listening to ShowX on btwproductions.com.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show as we wait for Todd to make his way back. But Ian,
that was great, by the way. I always like it when we occasionally go back and listen to Brew Guy. He's such a talented man.
Right? Brew Guy's great. Well, it's one of those that, granted, I have to be careful which songs I pick because there are some that notoriously have hit us with the old DRM issues, or not DRM, sorry, the
copyright
violations for copyright and such, that because of all the bots out there, even though we have permission to use all the songs that we play on our show, we sometimes have to go fight the bots and let them know that we have permission. Oh well. But coming back, as we're talking about WoW and what is the Burning Crusade now being active and relevant again today, as it was just released on Classic WoW. Ken, you said you had something you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, so there, a couple things. First of all, I wanted to actually mention that Happy Pride Month to everybody out there. I forgot to mention at the top of the show. I just wanted to say that briefly. Huh. From one member of the LGBT community. That's strangely hard to say to everybody else here.
LGBTQIA plus community. It is simple.
I usually just go with the plus because I get that it's important to represent everybody, but like it is getting overly complex, and I think LGBT plus is a nice, concise way of saying everybody. So I got this a couple of years ago, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the recipes that are inside the official World of Warcraft cookbook by Chelsea Monroe Castle. They have a bunch of interesting drinks. I don't think I can by copyright show you like everything on every page, but under fair usage, I can certainly show a couple of things. So I'll just briefly show a couple open pages here. So there, for example, is hot apple cider, jungle vine wine, Great Father's winter ale. That's a really fun one to make. And yeah, so these are really fun. I really enjoy making them over the years. But, you know, I don't eat meat, so it's been kind of hard because not all the recipes are obviously vegetarian, or I'm pescatarian, so not all of them are at least fishy. But there's a new book out that just got released called The New Flavors of Azeroth, also by Chelsea Monroe Castle. And it has a wealth of interesting recipes. Now, the other book was done by, is sorted by type of food. So if you're having, for example, drinks or breakfast or sides or mains or whatever. But this one, strangely enough, is by location in World of Warcraft.
Oh, interesting.
So you have Kalimdor, Broken Isles, Eastern Kingdoms, Kultiras, Zuldazar, Pandaria, Shadowlands, Darkmoon Fair, Nazjatar, Northrend, Outland, and beyond. And there's a huge range of stuff throughout it that's quite interesting and mixed up. I had kind of a funny story because yesterday I tried the first recipe. Let's see if I can find it while I talk here. It was called Stone something. Rock Bites 169. They're called Rock Bites. And they're quite a simple recipe, which is why I want to try it. It's a nice, easy one to do. They're basically a type of candy that you can make at home out of condensed milk, white chocolate chips, cocoa powder, some almonds, and some cookies that are crumbled up. And they look like this on the left. See that picture there?
Yes.
So they look like rocks, right? That's the whole idea. They're supposed to look like rocks. So you can have brown ones and you can have sort of white-looking ones. And it suggests in here, it says at the end, once you've pressed the fudge, you can make some interesting colors and swirled patterns. So I tried to make mine into these nice circular swirls going up to like a whipped shape at the top is what I was trying to do. And I tried it with several of them, and I realized that they just looked like big turds. So I was like, okay, I was supposed to be taking these out to my D&D group last night. And I decided, okay, they don't look so great. Maybe I can make them look a little bit better by just pouring a very small amount of the condensed milk that I've left over on top of them. And so if you don't know, condensed milk, it's not pure white. It's sort of like a yellowish, palish kind of white. It's kind of translucent. Yeah. So I try to swirl that around it, but the way that, condensed milk kind of, the viscosity of it means that it doesn't quite fall at a stable rate. So it looks like there's some blob somewhere, then little drips elsewhere. And yeah, basically, I had these turds that had this strange. I'm not going to say what it looked like these strange white liquid
Milky,
all over it, and it was
translucent
yep, it
collections
looked
all over it.
incredibly inappropriate. Like
You,
I
you
mean,
made
I
something
thought,
that you made something that looks like you might have found in the back alley of behind somewhere where people who do drugs often hang out.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, they taste delicious. I've been eating
And
them
you asked
today.
you asked
They're-
people to put them in their mouths, or you just kept it to
I
yourself?
did not. I decided not to take them out and show anybody because genuinely, it like what just looking like a turd, it probably could have gone by, but looking like a turd and the strange liquid on top definitely wasn't. It wasn't doable. Iona says, "Can you get a copy of that book that doesn't have American measurements?" No, but I don't use them. I don't understand American measurements, even though I'm here now. So I tend to just ask Google on the fly, with like, "Hey, could you just tell
there
me
you go.
what
Hey.
syntaxes are in meters?" And it's really easy. Iona,
Just as often, I've had to find ways to translate, measurements back and forth from, the rest of the world to Imperial, and it's not that hard. We have technology, everyone. It's not that bad.
Yeah, like honestly, I mean, it's well worth picking up if you guys like I'm not that big into cooking in general because I think there's just so much variety out there that I don't know, it kind of intimidates me. But the fact that it's it's so geeky, but the fact that it's World of Warcraft based gives me a basis of familiarity and understanding. It also has like expectations of difficulty on each page, telling you how easy it will be based
Nice.
on your cooking skills in game.
So does it do that with the skills base is it just the level at which your cooking skill must be at to do, or do they do any of the recipes have colors associated with their titles to say whether they're common, uncommon, legendary, epic?
They're in-game cooking level at the top right. So skill level artisan, for example. So I think that's like 175 to 225 or something like that.
It would just be great if one of those recipes was like a legendary recipe or something. That'd be even better.
Some of them are really difficult, by the way. There's this really cool one actually in the original book called honey bread, where you basically make this really long, really, really long bread, like 20 feet long. And then you get an upside down glass bowl and you swirl it around it and then you bake it like that so that it looks like a honeycomb at the end. And it's such a great idea. We managed to do it. It was amazing. But yeah, if everybody's interested, I find it really accessible. The only thing I would say is that there's a problem with these books is that some of the recipes have some kind of rare ingredients, but not all of them. Like a lot of the one I made yesterday was stuff I had in the cupboard. Like it wasn't an issue to go get that stuff. But some of them have, like one of them asked for the seasoning. What was it? Seeds of Paradise, Grains of Paradise. I hadn't even heard of that before. I tried Whole Foods, I tried Kroger, I tried Meijer. Nowhere. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing. So, some of the recipes are just like clearly very niche. But I'd say that's maybe like 10% of them. But 90% are very accessible and very fun.
Nice. So I do love that in this geek culture we have so many additional ways to enjoy them, because I have friends that have picked up, like, and I'm sure I think you might have it as well, Ken, the Lord of the Rings cookbooks and such that are out there as well. And I know we've done a few where one of my friends often on their birthday always tries to do a Hobbit party and such, and so we often come together with Lord of the Rings themed or Hobbit themed recipes to try to share. And as much as I've still never myself done, was it lemdus bread or whatever?
Lemdus bread, yep.
Lemdus bread, yeah.
I've done some of the other little recipes around, or I often try to do some of the alcoholic like mixes and things. I love doing those. It's just great to be able to celebrate your geekdom in addition, in your own life outside of just playing the games we love.
Absolutely, I agree. There's a great subreddit that I just put into the chat there called Elven Food. If you sort it by top, at the very top of the page, just click on top, then sort by all time. You can see some food that truly looks elven in there. And it's just people who make the random things that just look particularly naturey or beautiful or elegant. And it's very appropriate you just brought that up, by the way. And I'm halfway through the Silmarillion right now. I'm reading that at the moment.
I'm sorry. I mean, good. That is good on you.
It does feel like reading the Bible a little bit.
Yeah.
Parts of me wish I could get into that level of geek, like that depth of geek with the things I enjoy, and I just haven't. And it's a challenge because I know there's a lot to be learned from, and admittedly, I just finished reading Ready Player 2, and it has references to things that you would need to know from The similar. Yeah, I can never even say it.
Similarian?
Right.
Silmarillion.
Silmarillion. That I never get, and it's like, nope, I never read those. That are like super obscure things. And so, although I did equally as side note into Lord of the Rings, one of my favorite memes of late is the comment that the only thing that Legolas ever says to Frodo is, "And you have my bow," and that's in the entire story of Lord of the Rings. That's the only actual thing that Legolas ever
That's
actually
funny.
says to him.
That's correct. Legolas owes Frodo one bow.
It's one of those ones that you're like, wait, and realize that the story of all the characters as they just are everywhere, that they never associate again. So anyhow, all right. So now that we're all back to full strength, as we're looking at the Burning Crusade, some of the other things though that I guess is Todd, you're talking about your. Before the break, some of your anticipation, some of the things you're looking forward to, not just with Burning Crusade, but Up Through Wrath and stuff. But in the Burning Crusade, because it's only been not even a week, right, that this is out again now. What are some of the specific instances or quests or things like that in the Burning Crusade that you recall from back in the day that you just can't wait to sink your teeth into again?
So so the one that I talked about with the Lost Tribe of Orcs and Thrall, and that the 4 levels later you're gonna get a callback to that when Thrall actually shows up in Outland. I am looking forward to messing around with the Syndicate again, the ethereal purveyors, like intergalactic purveyors of stuff. Ferengi but cool. Nothing necessarily specific relative to that. The Arcatraz.
The Arcatraz is a very cool dungeon.
The final boss of the Arcatraz.
Can we just talk about that design difference, by the way, going from vanilla, where everything looks like plain old fantasy, to suddenly you have the night elf, the blood elf territory, Silvermoon, where everything's floating buildings and red themed and mana worms, and then you go to the Arcatraz and the Eye and everything, and you see all these electrical crystal pylons around the place, and
and they were part
Netherstorm.
I knew I needed to do this, and I couldn't. TBC Outland map, because I can't remember what the name of the zone is. I'm gonna say Stone Talon Mountains, and that's wrong.
Thousand Needles.
For which one? Because I'm looking at for the Arcatraz.
Yeah.
Because
so Arcatraz is another storm, but I'm thinking about Blade something mountains.
Bladespire Mountains.
Bladespire Mountains. Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff in Bladespire Mountains too. A lot of this ethereal to high technology arcing electricity type stuff. And it looks really, really awesome. And I really, really apologize, but we are I have to leave because we are headed to the hospital. So.
Okay.
Snap.
Go.
So I will see you all.
Dude,
see you all later,
no worries, man. No worries.
And I'm just gonna drop off the call. So,
all right, thank you. Hey, all right, Todd.
Bye, Todd.
Hopefully everything's great.
Yep.
Get out of here.
Stay safe.
Don't worry about us.
Yep.
Bye.
See ya.
Doom.
Yeah, that's one of those times where you don't need to explain. Just go.
Right. No, that's the things have happened, and thus let's see if this button works how it should. Bam! Look at that. Oh, wow, how did that not update?
That was pro, man.
Well, almost, except that I haven't. It's been so long since I've done this overlay that
it's been the wrong
insert. Well, it's not just that. No. So what I did is I started changing. Oh no, it's because I haven't put an animated one on here yet, and so that's
right.
That's the key. So real time, I'm going to.
All right, you do that. Well,
I'll on
continue
this
following what I think Todd was going down. Which is Bladespire Mountains, which is the area next to Netherstorm. also had this really unique look, and it was a really cool storyline there as well. So there's all these dragons that lived in that area originally before we get to Outland, and the orcs in that region and the ogres in that region had a big war with the dragons and ended up wiping them out, completely annihilating all dragons in that area. So the Bladespire Mountains have this really, really unique looking design where there's all these really jagged rocks everywhere, followed by dragon skulls and dragon bones and corpses littering everything. And half the towns there were based on dragon corpses and stuff because, you know, you may as well use those giant bones as shelter. And it was cool, apart from like that one night elf area. And then there was also Ogrela. Do you remember Ogrela, Wayne?
Not as much, like the name somewhat, but I'm trying to think what it actually looked like. Because part of my challenge is, well, I did go play in Outlands. I did one time, and it was during Wrath, that I went back and actually spent some real-time questing there to try to see what all was going on and such. And so I remember I spent some time there, but it's been a while. Because it was one of the first times I actually flew around a lot.
Yeah, Ogrela was this little ogre place, and you know ogres are generally just these super dumb big creatures, all about brawn rather than brains. So you can go to this place called Ogrela, and these ogres have found these strange crystals around the place, apex crystals, I think they're called. That being near slowly makes you more intelligent. And also some of the gameplay elements there actually had a bunch of puzzles and stuff, which I really enjoyed, memory puzzles and such, which I think is the only time in WoW that really ever happened, actually. They should really add more puzzle elements into the game. So these ogres became intelligent, and like half of them are just like levitating and doing fancy magic because they've achieved enlightenment effectively. And it was just a neat little element that, you know, just in the middle of nowhere, there's these random ogres just achieve enlightenment. And there were also a faction that you had to, you know, appease by doing daily quests and stuff. And there was a lot of those, I think, in TBC. There's a lot of factions that you need to get your rep with, grind your rep with, which I didn't really enjoy so much.
That is a mechanic in WoW, and maybe I am the outlier that I just never was good with, which was rep grinds. Like, I understood, I like what it does to the storytelling element, in that I am now friendly enough with this group that there's some benefit associated with it. And I like the idea that you could, although I don't know if I ever saw it in a negative way. I saw it in the positive, like it would open up additional things you could buy and stuff like that or whatever. But did it ever, if your rep was too low or really great with a different faction, did it ever negatively impact you a whole lot in the game? Like,
I mean, you get discounts on certain items as well that you could buy otherwise. So if you didn't have enough rep with a certain faction, you bought stuff from them frequently, you would technically be getting charged more than you could be.
Yeah.
So you could argue that is...
Did you ever have it to a point where there was an area that you wouldn't have access to because they wouldn't let you in because your rep was so low? Or because, I mean, did they ever take it to the effect of like how Horde and Alliance, right? A Horde, you go into Alliance town, you're going to get hit by the guards, all that good stuff. But did they ever do that with any of the other factions in the world where it's like if you actually if you ground enough rep, you would get access to an area that you wouldn't otherwise? Because like I said, for the most part, I just avoided it.
There is one thing that I can think of, and that's actually in vanilla. If you went to Gadget Zan or Booty Bay or any of these places, and instead of you doing the quests and doing the grind to become friends with them, you could actually, I always just said it in the chat as well, you can actually just attack them. So you set them as an at-war faction inside your reputations page, and you could then attack their guards and stuff. And if you did that enough, you could get to like maximum hated status. And then I think it's Wrath onwards, you unlock an achievement where you get a special title where you become, what was it again? Bloodsail Admiral or something as a title that you have on your name. But it means that you're now locked out of all these neutral goblin zones. So if you want to go from like Kalimdor to Eastern Kingdom, you need to get a portal because you can't use the boats anymore, or you need to somehow survive the attacks from the goblins as you run through, jump on the boat, and then get out of there. It's quite it's a fun thing that I wish they do more of because it was a real in-game consequence for your actions. I mean, you could eventually get back with them again, but it was hard.
But you see, that's kind of what I would hope to see more of in that kind of situation when there is rep grind, because unfortunately I always heard about it is just people trying to do it for a specific either title or item or thing like that. And I just thought it would be so much cooler if they'd had it where truly your reputation adjusted in more than an on-off situation of who's an enemy, who's a friend, to even just dialogue, right? If you came up to a certain area and people looked at you and were kind of like, better watch this one, to friend, how's it going, friend, to, oh, honored so-and-so, right? Those kind of levels of things, just that would add a bit more richness, I think, to a world as a whole. Because those are all the kind of things in an MMO that I did not resonate with. And so I never rep grinded. I like grinding anything for the purpose of just grinding it just annoyed me. It was like, I just want to play through the game and play through the quests.
How many hours do you have in Clicker Hero again?
That one you just left on the side and never actually play.
Uh-huh.
You just leave it running and it keep leveling.
I just love bringing that one up. I'm doing a poll, by the way, for anybody who's interested. It's annoying actually because I've been trying out these polls on Twitch. They're pretty neat, but the problem is you have a very limited number of options. I'm allowed a maximum of 5. I was going to ask, what's your favorite area in Outland? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bundle 2 together, but the ones that I think are the worst ones. I'll put Zangor Marsh and Terrakar Forest together. That way people don't. I still think it won't get many. But yeah, be sure to vote and tell us your favorite area, because I know what mine is. I have some really good memories of going around Outland in specific areas and such. So that's the poll there in the chat now.
So I'm gonna look, because let's see. Now that map's just Netherstorm, it looks like. I was gonna try to see just an Outland map.
Sure.
So I could look at them again, because that was partly for me, like, where was it? So let's see.
So when you first landed in Outland, what you would see is you'd be in Hellfire Peninsula. So you would see those big gates. So if you're looking at a map, it's the very east side of the entire map. You see that massive gate. So that's where you'd land, and you'd see the Fell Reavers and all the demons, and you do your first flying quests and everything. And when you go through Hellfire Peninsula, you'd eventually work your way into Terrakar Forest a little bit and go to Shatrath, which is the main city of the sort of mix of Blood Elves and the Draenei. And I really didn't like Terrakar Forest. I thought it was really boring. I hated the freaking bird people. I just did not care about the storyline. I know it was very tragic, and they were like, oh, we love to fly, but now we can't fly. Okay, that's it. I got it. Do I really need to grind to do quests with these guys and them more? I hate them. I really liked all the other zones. Nagrand in particular, I remember that was when I first... This is such a random tangent, I guess. But I first learned about the band REM and started listening to them when TBC just got released, and I just started going through Nagrand. So to me, for some reason, the music for Nagrand, in my mind, is REM. And whenever I think of REM, I think of Nagrand. Whenever I think of Nagrand, I think of REM. And yeah, so I really enjoyed Nagrand, because I have all these beautiful moments listening to music and flying around for the first time on my snowy white griffin, because I was Alliance, because I was Scum. And it's a beautiful, beautiful area, all these chunks of land flowing about. And then I remember I had skinning on one of my characters, and in that zone, you first meet Nessingwary, and you do his quests, which are like, I think there's like 15 quests with chains of quests where you need to hunt specific animals or certain numbers of animals. And that whole area was nothing but mammals you need to hunt. And then if you're a skinner as your profession, oh my God, you would leave there with like 2,000 like bits of skin and leather. And it was so lucrative. That's also where the Elemental Plateau was, where everybody else had to grind to get their ingredients to do crafting as well. Then and north of that, you have Zangor Marsh, which is the sort of mushroom forest. And if you remember, that's where the Naga are, and they were draining it of the water before their evil purposes or whatever. Then there's Blade's Edge Mountains to the north of that, which I already discussed. And to the east of that, we have Netherstorm at the top right.
Yeah, I found a map. I was looking through it because I was trying to remember it. I think in a similar way, Nagrand was the place I enjoyed the most out of there. I think. Because I want to say that's where, as a druid, I flew around a bunch. Right. I just liked the look of the world, and admittedly doing the thing where I would just drop like down onto certain quests and stuff and avoid all the mobs. Because flight and just being able to go around and kind of just quickly get through and do quests that way. But I do remember that area and kind of the general look of it that I liked quite a bit. So I think that's the one I would probably have remembered the most.
Oh, that's funny. So the poll ended in number one winner was Hellfire Peninsula. I'm surprised by that.
How
Yeah,
did
my
it end
favorite
so
was
quick?
definitely Grand.
Ah,
But Shadow Moon Valley was also really cool. That was the place that had all the spewing fell volcanoes, and that's where Illidan's Black Temple was, and so on. Very iconic area as well. I never
see,
actually did Black Temple.
I was gonna say
When
I never fought Illidan. I never got that far into
Oh,
it.
dude, that's worth getting a sub just to go do. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do in WoW nowadays. I just grind mounts and different things I think are cool that I couldn't have done in the past because I didn't have like a raiding guild back then. But yeah, I've killed Illidan so many times that I now have the blades of Azeroth, which are his,
Yeah,
legendary
his
blades. I have them on my demon hunter. So I can run around as a demon hunter with the actual blades. They're useless now. They're really, really, really bad if you try to actually use them. But they look cool. They look really cool.
Well, I was gonna say
Um,
I remember when like every demon hunter out there, right, went and you know, grabbed those blades and they made themselves look as close to Illidan as they could because
mhm.
he was just awesome. And so
Yeah, when Legion first came out, everybody was grinding it because it does look so cool. But I think there was multiple classes that could get that item. I think it was like warriors and hunters maybe as well, actually. Maybe paladins, I don't know. But yeah, it's so freaking cool to have those glaives. But yeah, TBC in general, the zone design was absolutely immense. I'd say it's probably the most iconic. Yeah, I think I can say that safely. It is the most iconic zone in the entire of all expansions ever since,
okay.
for me anyway. Like Azeroth, generally speaking, is quite samey throughout. That includes the Cataclysm changes. I know there's now Vashir, which is an underwater area, and that is very unique looking, but most people hated it. Um, then you have
Huh.
things like Pandaria. Pandaria is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's not that like within the Pandaria expansion, there's not much variance, right? All the zones are pretty similar. I would say I see there's some differences, but they're nothing. There's not like the fire land and the water land or anything. They're all just kind of foresty or plains, generally speaking. Kultiras, same issue again. It's interesting. One looks like a witchy place. One's plains. One is kind of a little city area, and that's kind of it. Northrend is beautiful for many reasons, but again, the zones are just all kind of cold looking. Some are a bit grassier than others. That's about it. But if you look at Outland, you go through the Hellfire Peninsula, red everywhere, big robots walking around, Netherstorm, purple, and there's lightning in the sky, and there's these biomes of energy holding together these little ecosystems. Then you have Blades Edge Mountains that are all these extremely spiky mountains that are very unique looking. Zangarmarsh, Mushroom Forest, all blue as well. Nagrand is one of the only places that is actually just plains, but the plains are also in the sky floating around. And it still looks like a broken land. Terracar Forest is, well, to be fair, it's kind of boring. It's just a forest, really. And Shadowmoon Valley was really a desolated place by Fell. And it's showing what's eventually going to happen to Outland along with Hellfire Peninsula. So I love the design of the world. By far, that's definitely my favorite part of Outland.
Nice. Nice. Well, and that's like I said, it's one of those or just something to note. It's one that we've talked about a few times how it seems to be one that most people who've played WoW gravitate towards talking about their best experiences. And so it's not surprising how much people have been looking forward to this chapter in Classic. And I forget because just remember when Classic first started hitting, kind of the ideas of what was going to be coming to Classic and what order and what time frame, that kind of thing. To see if we're ever going to see Classic progress as far as retail is, or if they're ever going to cut it off, right? Do they get so far as, I don't know, make it just stop at pre-Cataclysm or something like that? I still will forever suffer that I think Blizzard's big mistake they made between retail and Classic was, one, them being two separate things, two, that they should have just all made this and something that you quested through in the Caverns of Time, that you just accessed Classic through Caverns of Time.
I'm absolutely fine with that because in my okay, this is not even like a that would be nice to have kind of thing. As far as I'm concerned, since most of us actually paid for those expansions, you should have complete access to those expansions. So, for example, if you paid for Legion, right, which I know is one of the newer ones, but still, if you paid for Legion, you don't get all the things that were promised to you. A lot of the content was removed because it wouldn't make sense to have like the weapon talent tree type stuff that was existed in that expansion afterwards because it would break the game. I understand. I get it. However, we paid for it. Keep it in the game. It can be removed when you go to the next expansion. Fine, but I don't care whether it's done through Caverns of Time. I don't care whether it's a ticky box that you click saying this character will stay in this expansion or that expansion. But I think that we were entitled to that because you paid for it. No, you know, genuinely, I think as a consumer, you paid for a specific thing, and just because they released something else that's different, why would that take away from your experience of the thing that you bought? They were separate entities.
Well, it's one of those that I think it could be handled, like you said, whether checkbox or such, because we've seen them already in a lot of different MMOs provide nuanced experiences based on levels and trying to bring people so they can play together and things like that. I don't see why you couldn't expand that further, and maybe it's just more maintenance costs and complexity, and that's why they don't want to, and that's fine. But the ideal experience, I guess, for me would be able to enter the Caverns and Times and take your hero to whatever storyline instance of the world that existed, essentially, each expansion that existed and all the rules that were there for it. And it could keep a copy, basically, of each one of those as your character's, you know, the armor sets, the gear, the skill sets, and all that kind of stuff they had in each of them, such that, yeah, you couldn't bring back perhaps some armor set from this one to the current time, and that could easily be covered in the storyline of it, right? Or if it did, it would change stats or it would change something, right? Because
I don't mind the bringing back stuff so much. That's
but I'm just saying anything that might break the game in the future. You know, when you come back from your epic adventure in the historical time frame, you are left with this fragment of what it was that you experienced, and it now has these characteristics in the new world. So that maybe you could keep armor sets, you could keep, you know, weapons and such, but it wouldn't have a breaking ability on it or something, right? They'd modify it for what it is today, or whatever
the reason why
expansion.
The reason why I'm not so sure about that is because right now what they have in the game is you can. Right now, every month, I think, there's a week where they have a time walking week. And they choose a random, well, I don't know if it's random. They choose a expansion. And anybody who chooses to do so, instead of just doing random dungeons of this expansion, you can instead line up for random dungeons of that expansion. So say it's Burning Crusade time walking, then you can click, I want to do Burning Crusade raids and or dungeons, and you can go back and do them. And it's all scaled up. So you go in with your current gear, and you can do the raid or the dungeon as if you are currently like the appropriate level for that. And if you pick up any gear there, it's scaled up to your current level. It's never as good as like if you pick up a legendary or whatever. It's not gonna, you know, it's scaled up to the. It'll probably be like a average okay thing now, but you know, you don't get like top tier stuff. The current raids always outweigh the old stuff, but still it's a good way to experience them. It's a good way to get the achievements, and you have to do all these old tactics again and everything, and you know, it's good for all that. So I really like the time walking they do. I'm just saying for all the other content, like right now, if you want to go level in one of these expansions, you can. Not on a new account, you have to unlock it by going to level 50 first. But if you already have one character near a high level, you can unlock it for future characters and say, yeah, you just go talk to Chromie from the Bronze Dragonflight in Stormwind or in Orgrimmar, and you say, hey, Chromie, I want to go to this timeline. And she moves you to the timeline. And that's neat, but it doesn't go quite far enough. Because, again, a lot of this stuff, all the content is removed. It doesn't quite work as well. I would rather if it actually had all that content from back then working properly.
Gotcha. Well, at least they have mechanics in there, I guess, and that's the thing. And that's why I freely admit I've been so separate from it for so long now that I can't really speak to the current state of things. And I am left in those bits of reminiscing from when I did participate. And so, but kind of curious. And I guess one of the not necessarily a poll, but a comment to everyone who's watching us right now is, for those who are playing Classic now, what are some of the things you're looking forward to in TBC? And for those who maybe played in the past but aren't playing in Classic now, what were some of the things that you really loved and you remembered as being some of the things that when the gates open, when the dark portal opened and you walked through, what your nostalgia, your memories of it were? We'd love to hear from you. I'm sure Ionis can give us some kind of epic response to what's happened in his email for next week. Not that I'm throwing that out and throwing the gauntlet down or anything like that, but hey.
And anybody else who wants to email us can do so, vtwshowx@gmail.com. Please do send us on your thoughts and about either feedback for the show is always welcome, or what you're currently doing with WoW, or why you won't go back, or any of your thoughts in general. You don't have to be playing it right now to send us your thoughts. We'd be interested in hearing anyway.
I've been sharing thoughts and I haven't played it for years.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I play WoW. I play Shadowlands, and I say I play Shadowlands. I have an account that's active on Shadowlands, but I haven't done any Shadowlands content for months because I don't really care about it. I really just, like, right now. I told you before. I've managed to get Ashes of Alar from the Burning Crusade in the past few weeks, and before that I got Invincible from Wrath of the Lich King expansion, and now I'm working on I don't even know what it's called actually. The Firelands.
Which of those were the mounts that you'd recently gotten? Because I remember that when you posted that in Discord, how excited essentially you were. It's like, look, I got 2 of the more rare things you've been after forever.
Yeah,
just
they're
in the last week.
They're the Invincible from Wrath of the Lich Kings that drops
okay,
from
so that was
Arthas
one of them. Okay.
Ice Crown Citadel, and the other one is the Ashes of Alar, which
so
drops
it is what
from...
it is what you just said. Okay, I thought
Yes.
those were different items versus.
No. That's
mounts.
why I got recently.
My mistake.
And they're less than 1% drop rate, so that takes a long time to try and get if you're not lucky. So yeah, I finally got those, and that was great. And now I'm working on there's 2 mounts that you can get from Firelands, or I think it's two. Yeah, you get 2 from Firelands. I've already got one of them so far, which is the Flame Talon of Alice Razor, and this is from the Cataclysm expansion. I never did any of these raids, and I didn't really care. Cataclysm kind of passed by me. I really wasn't that interested in Cataclysm. I thought Deathwing was cool. But the rest of it, I thought was just kind of dumb. I'm glad they updated all the old zones so they had flying and everything, and I thought that was nice. But looking back now, even then at the time, it didn't feel like it was adding anything to the game as much as fixing what was missing. Right? There's a difference between those 2 things. Anyway, so one of the cool raids that came out from that expansion is Firelands, and that's where you go back and kill Ragnaros again, but this time in his home. Right? You're no longer you're not summoning him to the mortal plane to temporarily slay him. You're going to go kill him in his home, and that's pretty neat. So I've been doing that a bunch of times, and Alice Razor, which is like this big phoenix thing, if you kill it enough times, it eventually drops the Flame Talon of Alice Razor, and it's basically this ground mount that looks like a big turkey, but it's on fire, or it's made of fire, I should say. It's not on fire. But I really want to get the other one, which is a 1% drop rate, which is the Smoldering Egg of Milligazer. It's basically just a big old phoenix. A really sharp looking phoenix compared to the Ashes of Alar. So I've been trying to do that just now. That's how I play WoW now. I just grind stuff, and I really enjoy that. And like slowly but surely, I'm trying to go through and unlock everything, like all the mounts, all the reputation stuff. I'm just doing it very slowly over the years, and I take my time and I enjoy it. But in TBC, I remember when I first started playing TBC, and I saw the Netherwing Drakes for the first time. Do you remember those, Wayne?
Ish.
So the Netherwing Drakes, so back in Classic, there was no dragons, right? Like in Vanilla, there was no dragons. You could fly. Like you couldn't fly at all, really. But then when you could fly in Outland, the first thing you got was either like a kind of mediocre looking griffin. There was like 5 variants of different color palettes, but whatever. It's just a griffin if you're Alliance, or you got a wyvern if you were Horde.
Yeah.
And again, it's like it looks fine. It's a bat. But one of the first things you can get in Outland, if you actually grind the rep for, is a Netherwing Drake. And all these things looked so cool. They were like glowy and neon looking. Yeah, I loved those, man. And I've still never gotten one yet, even to this day, because I just haven't put in the time to grind it. So I want to go back and do and soon, and that's one of the things I really enjoy with TBC as well that I missed out on was getting one of those cool mounts. Because I remember back then when I was like 14 or whatever, I would just follow people around who had cool mounts. I'd be like, "You have a cool mount? How did you get that, man?" You know that this is like the early days of like Thoughtbot is what I used before Wowhead.
Oh gosh,
Thoughtbot.
yep, I remember that.
Which is a funny name now though. Looking back, it's quite an amusing name.
If only they had known the thoughts they would have been.
Yes, indeed. um, and Iona says, I'm looking forward to wiping the raid in Karazhan by moving on Shade of Iran. Oh, the Shade of Iran dance. Yeah, I remember there was actually a Brew Guy song called The Chant of Iran, I think. And it was a chant that you were supposed to sing while you do the raid, and it tells you how to move around.
Oh, interesting.
Netherwing, Ando asks, is Netherwing the one we have to do all the holidays? No, that's a Fade Drake or something. You get a pink Fade Drake or something like that. I've not done that either, and that takes what a long, strange journey it's been. What a long, strange trip it's been, is what that achievement's called. And then you have to do all the achievements for all the holidays throughout a year, or any year, to unlock that. No, the Netherwing one is, I think it's in Shadowmoon Valley. There's a little, like, ledge where you need to go and do a bunch of dailies every day for like 3 years. I exaggerate. It's probably like 2 months, but it feels like a very long time. I should also mention one of the great things about the time walking stuff that currently exists in the game. If you want to go and get some rep from an old expansion, and you can't really be bothered doing those dailies every single day. It doesn't mean you don't have to do it anymore, but to make it a little bit faster, you can wait until it's a time walking event, like I mentioned before in the calendars, and then you get like a 50% bonus to rep for all of that expansion. So if you go back and do all those dailies during that week, you can increase, it cuts down the time you need to spend by half. So it's well worth doing, or well worth waiting for, I think.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, yeah, the whole point of me bringing all the various things I'm doing and such was I have a lot of things that I thoroughly enjoy doing in WoW that it still involve the old expansions, but I don't feel the need to go do that again myself in Classic, or I don't really want to go back and grind all that stuff again, because I agree with what you're saying. Grind itself isn't that fun. Like the eventual gratification from doing the grind is great, and I enjoy that. But you can definitely go over the top. RuneScape is a good example of a game that does it to the extreme. It's just not worth putting in all those hours to get level 99 smithing or whatever in RuneScape, and it's equally not really worth it in World of Warcraft for a lot of the rep grinds. And so I'd rather do it in the modern day expansion, just play it with all the bonuses and high level, and just rock through the dailies super quickly with my, superior maximum level 6 expansions ahead or whatever experience, than have to do it from scratch. Screw that. I'm not interested. for what I get.
Yeah, no, it goes back to just, I continue to realize who I am as a gamer. That I enjoy gaming, I enjoy challenge, but I don't like, these things that are done just as a, I guess, false addition to the mechanic, that when it's filler, right? It's essentially filler. When you do the same breakdown of a quest, in the pre-show, Todd was telling me he was doing basically a grind, that he was killing ogres to pick up mushrooms or something to fill out whatever quest, right? And to me, just hearing that, it cascaded in my memory of like every kill X number of something quests have existed.
Yep.
Yeah, in every game ever made, and I've done it. And so now that just no longer interests me in any game. Like, if you can tie it really distinctly to the story and where it matters, I'm a little more interested. And I start seeing the memes more and more about how here I am, the hero of the world, and this epic evil is destroying everything. And I am spending an extra however many hours out here finding all the flowers so that this poor individual who doesn't apparently have the time to do it himself, who wants to propose to this girl, can have the right bouquet of flowers to impress her, kind of thing, while the world is, tempted to be shattered. And so there's just a piece of me too where I understand the games need you as a character to do something, and not everything, especially in the scope of an MMO and the amount of hours they want people to be in the game, can be scripted out so that it's unique constantly, and thus most of it is, random generate mob here, item here, quest giver here, and boom, done. We've populated 90% of the game. Yeah, I have less tolerance for that these days myself.
That is
That's just me.
a wise course of thinking, I think, sir. Yeah, I mean, like, in the end, if I see a game and if I can kind of see the design behind it, like I can imagine somebody sitting inside, I don't know, WoW Dev Software 7 or whatever they're using. All right, just drop a bunch of bear spawns here, quests. You just need to get 12 bear asses, and they have I don't know, 30% drop rate. All right, go. Like, I'm not going to spend half an hour of my time on that. I'm not interested in doing that. But
Right.
if you make it something super interesting and fun, and maybe my class mechanics are interesting, or maybe if you give me some special item that changes how I play the game as we go, that's all fun. I enjoy that, and that's why I really liked about Legion, for example, is that customization of the extra talent tree stuff with the weapons. That was all so fun. The class based halls were so interesting and exciting that I enjoyed doing those quests. I actually read the quest text. And you're absolutely right about this being the hero, the savior of Azeroth, and then next expansion you're back to being some squire effectively, and like, what the hell?
Nobody knows you, or it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the good thing about some of the expansions. I'm not going to say that I liked Warlords of Draenor because I really didn't. But one of the good things they did is that when you first get there, you show up with, like, depending on whether you're Horde or Alliance, you show up with like Thrall and like similar leaders. And he's like, champion, I'm so glad you have joined us on this expedition into this world. You will be my forefront general. And then you make your own base, and you're like, all right, this makes sense. After all
Yeah.
I've done, I killed Illidan. I killed freaking Sargeras or whatever. I killed, like, Archimonde. I killed, you can just list all the big bads that you've killed. It makes sense that when you show up, the leader of the faction should be like, oh, brilliant. We were going to fail until you showed up, right? That's the way it should be.
Yep. No, I agree. All right. So as we get to the top of the show here, I did want to do a few problematic things, I think, or just kind of self-plug and problematics. For your awareness, Ken, I should be this time next week in South Dakota, and I don't know if I will have access to internet or not. So we will see how that goes, as I'm going to be hanging around with family and such again. Also, for those who are paying attention to my Twitch channel outside of the show and stuff, I decided to make an effort to go back on Doc Dead and stream a little bit of Twilight Princess, as I'm trying to continue to go through the Zelda series, and it's been quite a hiatus. I did a little bit before the show today, and we'll try to continue to do that. I'm about to enter the Water Temple in Twilight Princess, which I jokingly was going to say when we were talking about water levels and brought up, is like, is it a universal like gaming fact or something or rule that all water dungeons or experiences have to be painful, and that in general
Yes.
people are going to like dislike in some format
To
or
be fair,
be challenged?
that's the quintessential one, the Water Temple, right? That is the everybody hates this.
Well, so I laughed because when I went through Water Temple when I played Ocarina, I didn't even have a problem. It took me about an hour, sight unseen. I didn't use any guides, anything through that, and got through it and did just fine. And so I anticipated, I think, worse, just because I'd kept hearing so many people comment on like, "Oh God, the Water Temple," and so I got to it and was kind of like, I mean, it was there, it's a thing, but it didn't like trip me out or wasn't so difficult. Maybe I was just lucky, but that was just an observation. But for anyone who is curious, yes, you can check out my Doc Dead channel, and I will be hopefully streaming some more. Maybe not today, but on a more regular thing to try to get through that. And I forget what I have to do before I get to Breath of the Wild. So I am trying to do that. With that in mind, Ken, what do you have going out soon with Where My Pro's At?
So where my prosa has been on something of a unexpected hiatus. Kitten started a new job, so she went from doing 2 days a week to doing six. So
Oh.
while I've been reading at the same pace as before, and so has Kitten, we haven't really had the time to get together to record together. Um, so we have plans. We've still got our whiteboard covered with stuff that we want to do. It's just getting it out there has been difficult. We have 3 things ready to record that we've read or watched, and we have more waiting. So please do keep an eye on the Versus the World video channel. We'll hopefully have something out soon. Like I said, it's just real life got in the way suddenly.
Oh, it happens.
We went from it being, well, I'm a home worker, remote worker, and I don't have specified hours really. So like before, it was kind of, oh, do you want to record today? Sure, we'll just do it. And now it's suddenly, oh, Kitten's out the house 6 days a week, and on that one other day, she's usually pretty tired from working all the other days, and
Makes
also
sense.
I might have meetings and work and stuff. So it's suddenly, real life sucks, man. Gets in the way.
Hey, I keep saying, man, I need to find the way to more quickly get rid of the 40-hour time sink I have each week that takes away from me doing all the things I want to do day in and day out. Let alone the things I have to do, like my yard at the home. So
we live in a society that's so rich that we can afford to do less days of work per week at least. I mean, I think in reality we can actually quite easily afford for less people to work entirely if they don't really want to, or if they want to do different types of work. I'm okay with society.
I am huge on the philosophical conversation. I've been saying it a lot recently. We know this is completely outside of the show, but we got like 3 minutes here, so that I think in any civilized world, you should look at how can you maximize the time that you are spending doing things you enjoy and pursuits of interest versus what is dictated for the necessity of life. And in modern forms, that's earning a wage. And in that sense, I am looking at jobs. I believe most jobs, unless they must be manned with a person there for the eventuality of something happening, service industry jobs type thing, should be outcome or task based versus hourly based, and thus you should get paid for doing the work that is necessary to complete that job, not for how long it takes you to do it. And thus,
I just love that when we talk about automation and everybody gets all mad about it and like how are we going to earn wages? Like, why are we even thinking in that mindset of having to earn a wage? Like, if we have robots doing the work for us, what they don't need paid.
That's the point,
like,
right? The point is
to
free up humanity to live, not to work. And if we could just get society to accept that,
profit on that, but God forbid.
People shouldn't be paid by the hour. People should be paid by the task. By getting did you service all of my customers in this week in the way that I expected? Yes, here's your paycheck, right? Regardless of how long it took you to do that.
Paychecks are required anymore.
Well,
I don't know. I think it's such a strange and abstract idea that is not necessary anymore.
We've yet to get to a societal point where we have enough resources done that people are able to just survive. We still need to work our way towards that. We're not in Star Trek land, but until we're in those things where you still work because there's things necessary to keep society running, and you incentivize that and value it versus you have a wage and thus earned. But I think there's a way to look at how you value the time worked versus just the number of hours you're sitting here and thus you get paid this much. Because I believe the option should be to try to free people up to have more time at home and freedom than latched to an occupation. That's my mindset. Anyhow, that is an aside that has nothing to do with Burning Crusade other than it would allow us more time to play the games we love. So it is time for us to get out of here. And Ken, if you would do us the honors, we can shut things down for today.
You can check out all of our various different medias, our different links, our different places where we hang out and do things, different places that we post things. Instead of me telling you every single link that exists out there and you have to memorize them or type them all in really fast, just click on that one in the chat there. It's linktr.ee/ShowX. If you click on that, you can go and check out all of our links across the interwebs. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can check us out on Instagram. You can check us out on Facebook. You can whatever, everywhere, or Reddit or subreddit, all that stuff. So all that is very much welcome and very much appreciated. Any support like that goes a long way, especially if you do things like retweet and like our posts and such. That goes a long way to helping the algorithm decide who to target for recommended posts in the future, which is how we grow. right? That's our main way of growing. So anything like that really, really does help. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Send Todd your best wishes because I hope everything's okay on their front right now.
Yeah, I hope the necessary run is for a good thing and nothing ill. So
yes, indeed.
We can hope.
Indeed. And with that, you have been watching, listening, and enjoying ShowX here on VTW ShowX on Twitch. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for hosting as usual, Wayne. Excellent job as always.
Awesome. I am going to pull one last note, just so I can pull it out of my notes and not have to talk about this ever again. The poll that we had done way weeks back about the top most memorable video game character.
Oh, yeah.
Many moons ago, we had a tie. And it was between Cloud from the Final Fantasy series and Solid Snake from the Metal Gear series. We had a lot of entries in there about video game characters, but those are the two that maxed us out. So just want to make sure I did tie a bow on that so that we did revisit it and get it out there. And that's it. So we will catch you guys next time. I'll jump in the Discord for a minute if anybody wants to hang out before I have to run out and do, responsible things. But we will see you again next week, everybody. Have a good one. And a very happy, as was already done in the chat there, a / salute to all of you out there. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch you again next time.
Goodbye. See you next zombie. Good night.